Hello and welcome to National Focus. I'm your presenter Mervin. Thank you for joining us. Coming up, plans underway to provide universal access to internet at secondary schools. Government's investment in agriculture continues, and the call to youths to stay away from illicit drugs. Stay with us for details of these and other stories after this. Thank you for staying with us. The Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Scarry says the current administration has made major gains in the education sector. The Dominica leader was the guest on last Thursday's Focus on Government and Development radio program with Mervin.
Education is a right. It should not be a luxury. It should not be because your parents cannot afford you shouldn't go to school. But what we have done, we have not only created opportunities for our children, but we have given them the means of taking advantage of that opportunity. You know, by creating a number of support mechanisms, whether it's the school bus program, the transportation program, whether it's support with textbooks, whether it's a school feeding program, whether it's a school transfer grant. And when I look at the records of the government, you know, I was Minister of Education, and you know, I continue to take a personal interest in everything that happens in education. And I look back at the number of young people we have sent to study. And the majority of them, it is because of the government's policy.
The development of various policies within the education sector has resulted in the increase in the number of qualified nationals.
The Ministry of Education has more qualified people and a larger pool of staff than any time in the history of the Ministry of Education. At the schools, you have more people with degrees at the primary school, at the secondary schools in Dominica than any time in the history of Dominica. And in most of these cases, again, if not all, but I will underscore in most cases, were because of government's policies.
Meantime, the Honorable Prime Minister says there are plans to create universal access to internet at all secondary schools on island.
What we are going to do, Mervin, which we announced already, and the Minister Kelvadaru is spearheading this with the able and very fortified guidance of the Telecoms Director, whom we have great confidence in, is that we'll be ensuring that every school in Dominica, every secondary school the state owns, will have universal access to the internet. So it will not only be the quote-unquote computer room that will have access to the internet, but every classroom will have access to the internet. Students will be able to sit under the tree, you know, and have access to the internet. Because we would like to see, and I know the education officials are looking at that, teachers use the device in the classroom for learning. You understand? Because that's the way to go. You know, we have to use technology to enhance children's ability to learn.
In more news, medical doctor at the acute psychiatric unit at the Princess Margaret Hospital, Dr. Gilda Nesty, has called on the nation's youths to stay away from illicit drugs. Dr. Nesty's remarks comes as the Drug Abuse Prevention Unit observes Drug Awareness Month. She told GIS News last week that she's concerned about the impact of drug abuse on the youth.
It is very sad to see the number of young black men that we have to admit on a weekly basis who have suffered at the hands of illicit drug use. It may sound cliche, but if we just keep it simple, say no to drugs. It is not for everybody. It is not for anybody. We're losing too many of our young black men to illicit drugs, being marijuana use, cocaine use, heroin use, or even alcohol use. And what we find, because we do not have a rehab unit here on the island, a lot of them, when they're discharged, when they're stable, they resort back to the illicit substance and they become regulars on our ward. Okay, to get them to go to rehab out of the country requires a substantial amount of funding in the amount of $3,000 to $4,000. Not many of them can meet that amount. Not many of them have the family members that can support them in that regard. These are young men that should be the future of our country. Instead, they are admitted at the APU. These are young men that come in thinking that they're seeing strange visions that are not there. They're hearing voices telling them to kill themselves or to kill somebody else. They're hearing voices telling them to do things that they would not normally do, simply because they're engaged in marijuana, heroin, or cocaine.
The Honorable Minister for Fisheries, Johnson Drago, is warning the public about the accountable use of the Marigot Fisheries Complex for social activities. He spoke with GIS News on site on Friday, January 8th.
They must take care of the facility when we make the facility available to them. It is my understanding that after these activities, the ministry receive estimates for damages caused by the users of the facility for these activities. So in 2016, we will be challenging all those who want to use the facility that they will be responsible for any damage caused to the facility when they are using the facility.
The Honorable Minister also addressed fishers who use the complex.
I wanted to encourage the fishers of Marigot to support their cooperative. It is my understanding that very few fishers make their contribution to the cooperative, especially the use of the lockers. Persons in the locker rooms have been asked to make a contribution of $10 monthly, and I believe that the fishers of Marigot can pay $10 monthly. So in 2016, I'm appealing to all of the fishers in the Marigot area to make their contributions to the cooperative for the upkeep and maintenance of the facility. The facility belongs to you, the fishers in the Marigot area. You must make your contribution, your financial contribution. Government cannot do everything, and therefore we must take responsibility for the facilities government has constructed for us.
Although bananas is a large part of local agriculture production, Honorable Agriculture Minister Johnson Drago says other crops play significant roles as well. He addressed farmers who have diversified with words of encouragement.
Our mission is to ensure that you succeed. We will work throughout 2016 to ensure that all of your produce meet the standard and is marketed. I want to also say to the farmers that do not be afraid. You have the support of the Ministry of Agriculture, the Permanent Secretary and all of the staff of the Ministry of Agriculture. You have our support, and we will support you through it all.
He affirmed that government's investment continue. Minister Drago referenced the over 14,000 bags of fertilizer distributed in recent times to farmers island-wide. He also mentioned the availability of chemicals for the control of the black sigatoka disease and the numerous other mechanisms in place for the success of the industry. Meantime, the Honorable Minister, speaking at a presentation of fertilizer from the EU to government on Monday, had this message for the island's farmers.
Now is the best time for farming. The markets are available for your product. We will ensure that we do everything in our powers to get markets for your products. Please follow the instructions given by your extension officers. And let us all ensure that agriculture continues to play the major role it plays in bringing export earnings to this country.
You're watching National Focus. More when we return.
Wash your hands. I am Adora Tuse, health educator from the Ministry of Health. Proper hand washing protects against the spread of many common illnesses and germs. Wash your hands often with soap and water, or you may use a hand sanitizer. Remember, Clean hands save lives. Protect yourself.
Welcome back. Government's National Employment Program continues. This was confirmed by the Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit on last Thursday's Focus on Government and Development radio program with Mervin Paul.
Cabinet approved continuation of employment. Those of you who may not have gotten the contract signed, you may want to follow up with the NEP office, but from a policy standpoint, the NEP continues. And I must say, in all fairness to the majority, the vast majority of the NEP people, they're doing a pretty good job, you know. And what we see also, Mervin, is that as time goes by, employers continue to be impressed with the interns, and many of them have taken them on the permanent payroll. What we've also seen with employers is that they have also partnered with us. They're also partnering with us on a 50-50 arrangement. So the government pays 50% of the person's wage, and the employer pays 50%. So and we've seen an increasing number of employers partnering with us in that regard. So it's very positive.
Honorable Skerrit says, however, that there is constant review of the program to ensure that only committed interns remain in the program.
There are some of them who are farming the fool. Here it is that you are unemployed. Here it is that the government has created an opportunity for you to be gainfully employed and to gain experience, and you're farming the fool on the job. We can't give you money for farming the fool on the job. I mean, what about the person who's unemployed and who wants a job and who is really ready to work? So we have to continuously review the NEP and to release those who are not prepared to work, because things are too difficult for me to be giving you money under the pretense of work. And once we have report that people are not working, irrespective of who the person is, we guarantee you that you will be dropped from the NEP.
Meantime, 16 new interns signed the contracts on Tuesday, marking the start of a 6-month employment program. GIS News spoke to NEP coordinator Emmeline Honoré.
The National Employment Program was launched in December of 2013 through the Ministry of Trade, Energy and Employment. The primary objective was to provide on-the-job training for persons who had attained academic and technical training but lacked the experience needed to be as productive as employers required.
She notes that so far, from all reports, the NEP has been exceptional.
Initially, the targeted amount of persons was 400, but since then we have surpassed that target, and we are presently at 1,113 interns under the NEP program. Today, we will sign contract with 16 new interns who will be placed at various public and private sector organizations around the island. The interns will be attached to these organizations for a period of 6 months in the first instance.
Currently, there are over 1,000 interns employed under the National Employment Program.
Presently, there are 1,113 interns engaged in the program. More than 50 interns have been able to secure permanent employment, and another 34 have been placed on 50-50 payment of stipend plan. And when I say 50-50, this means that the government meets 50% of their stipend and the placement organization meets the other 50%.
To future employers, Honoré had this plea.
Meet the NEP halfway. Once the people are trained already, that will be an asset to your organization. Once the persons do the internship program or the internship at your organization, you can keep them on, offer them permanent employment. That will not only help them to develop their own self, but it will empower young persons as well.
Honoré believes that the NEP will continue to benefit the lives of Dominicans.
The NEP, I can say, has done great for the youth and for the unemployed youth of Dominica. We have created, as I say, 1,113 jobs, and that's both in private sector, public sector, and in community employment initiatives. So the NEP has done well, and it will continue to do well in Dominica.
And finally, this news time, government continues to focus heavily on the development of the tourism sector. Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, speaking on Focus on Government and Development radio program, spoke of some of the initiatives designed to enhance the sector.
He articulated a number of important measures over time, but more recently in the budget. But we still are pursuing. As a matter of fact, we went to Parliament in November, I believe, and we passed a number of measures, a number of tourism measures which were discussed and agreed upon with the Dominica Hotel and Tourism Association. There's still a number of them that we have to consider, and we will be engaging them very soon in that regard. So that's insofar as the legislation and the legal framework for allowing for more robustness in investments and opportunities for profits and further employment and economic activity in the tourism industry.
Efforts are being made by the current administration to utilize the Citizenship by Investment program to attract foreign direct investment.
You know, we have been able to conclude with, as we have seen, with Range Developments, the Kepinski Hotel. We've done so with Tranquility Beach, with the Curio group under the Hilton brand. You know, we are concluding discussions and negotiations for 200-room hotel, and there are other developers locally and internationally who have expressed an interest in submitting proposals under the CBI.
And before we leave, here is one announcement. The government of the Commonwealth of Dominica is creating a national database of residential properties available for rent in an effort to assist families displaced by Tropical Storm Erica. All homeowners and agents are hereby invited to register with the Ministry of Social Services, Family and Gender Affairs by contacting telephone numbers 266-3205 or 266-3249 between Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or email forrent or forrent@dominica.gov.dm. Registration ends on February 15, 2016. And that's the English news. Coming up next, your tip of the day. Get educated about alcohol and drugs. You cannot rely on the myths and the misconceptions that are out there among your friends and on the internet. Your ability to make the right decisions includes getting educated. Visit Learn About Alcohol and Learn About Drugs, and as you learn, share what you are learning with your friends and your family. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website news.gov.dm. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/GIS News Dominica, and follow our Twitter at GIS Dominica. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. From all of us here on the GIS News production team, I'm Mervin Matthew. Thanks for watching, and join us again next time for National Focus.